You're listening to Let's Talk Sports podcast with me, Lucia. NFL, NBA news, and more coming to you right now. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Talk Sports podcast with me, Lucia. So just a little bit of an update. I've got a new job, so I will be recording these on Tuesday night to be released Wednesday Australian time. So you'll be getting a new episode every Wednesday morning Australian time, which will be about Tuesday afternoon American time. So yeah, I'm super excited about my new job. It's been a long day today, but this is one of my free evenings because I work 9 p.m. other days, so it'll be a lot easier now. So the rundown. Last week's storylines, then a new segment should they start tanking. Then we've got Contenders or Pretenders, news, and there is a lot of news, especially that came out today. There is a lot of news. And yeah, then we've got week 6 preview. So last week's top storylines. Tom Brady is still Tom Brady. Every single time I think that Tom Brady is not as good as what he used to be. He goes out and throws a 5 touchdown for 411-yard game. What more can you say about a 44-year-old man? He's a 44-year-old man. I mean, what more do you want from a 44-year-old man? Apart from to be home with his family. But I feel like that's not one of Tom's things, is that he just wants to be great. But yeah, I still cannot believe that Tom Brady is still Tom Brady at 44. The Buccaneers destroyed, put up 45 points on the Dolphins. So, the Finns are not that good. They're not that good at all. Which is sort of funny in a way, because everybody had expectations of them. Like, I had expectations of them. I had playoff expectations. I thought that Tua was going to make the jump. But clearly he hasn't. And maybe they need a new quarterback. But we'll talk about that in the off-season. And in still talking about Tampa Bay, let's say Antonio Brown is still Antonio Brown. AB is still AB. He had a couple of years where his play dropped, but I think that was because of Big Ben. I don't think that had anything to do. Big Ben and his attitude. Big Ben and AB's attitude. But I don't think that had anything to do with his performance. Because he can still fling a football. He can still catch a football like nobody's business. When he catches and runs, I'm like, yep, there goes that man. He's just going to run for miles and miles and miles. And I think that he's like Forrest Gump, where you need to actually have a sign that says, stop Forrest, except stop Antonio. Like, that would be amazing. Now, this is a question that I did not see coming. But are the Bills the new AFC favourites? I never thought that I would see the Bills the day the Bills are sort of seen as the favourites. And they are. I'm actually starting to think that I should pick them to go to the Super Bowl. I sure as hell am glad that I didn't pick the Chiefs. I'll talk about them next, but holy crap, the Bills look good. The Bills just look so put together, and they look like a well-oiled machine. And I'm happy for the Bills Mafia. They can break as many tables as they want. I love it. The Chiefs are not looking good. I think that they're drunk and hungover from the past 2 Super Bowls. They've played a hell of a lot of games in the past 2 years, and I think that they're just done. I genuinely think that they're done, that they just need a break. And I think that's this year. that is definitely this year. The Baltimore Ravens came back on the Monday Night Football game from a 19-point deficit against the Colts. The Baltimore Ravens are for real. I actually think they're going to make a hell of a lot more noise than what people are giving them credit for. It's either going to be them or the Bengals that are going to win the AFC North. They're the two that are going to probably win the AFC North. But they're going to be representing the AFC North in the playoffs. On some painful news and a painful storyline. The Giants, they're just pain. I've become desensitized to it. I've finally reached a point of the season where I've just become desensitized to their continual losing. And so we've reached that point. See, it happens. Last year it happened too at around about this time. I just got desensitized to it. Like literally just didn't think about it. It wasn't the story that I was talking about. I just became desensitized. But this one comes actual pain. Saquon's hurt. DJ's hurt. Galladay's hurt. The entire team is like a skeleton crew. And it's so horrible. And in talking about horrible, it was definitely not a good week for the brand. There were several missed field goal kicks. And if you don't know what For the Brand is, it's what Pat McAfee has labelled as like punters and kickers for the brand of punters and kickers. I think it's actually quite genius, that marketing for the brand. He was not happy when talking about all the missed field goals and punts and all that type of stuff that teams missed this week. So not a good week for the brand. Anyway, the new segment. Should they start tanking? So I'm going to pick two teams that I believe actually should start tanking. And I will discuss why with you. The first one, the Steelers. Yes, they need to tank. They need a quarterback badly. They barely have one now. They barely have a quarterback now. It's time for them to draft a quarterback. Time for them to redraft a quarterback and actually make Big Ben see the light that he needs to retire. He needs to retire. He needs to be gone. Gone. Even if he has a couple of good games here and there. Eli had a couple of good games here and there, and you're like, oh, there's the old Eli. And then it was like, no. Big Ben has reached that status of he needs to retire. Needs to. This is now an absolute needs to position for them. And the other team that I want to talk about is the Washington football team. There's a lot more about the Washington football team that needs to be fixed other than their football team. Maybe their front office, maybe getting a new owner. That'd be a good idea. Maybe just getting a new owner. That'd be an amazing idea. Dan Snyder, he is a horrible owner. And FedEx Stadium, it leaks. The turf is bad. Everything is just bad about FedEx Stadium. There's nothing good about it. And the Washington football team needs a quarterback. They do. Taylor Heineke can play for a little bit of time, but they need a quarterback. And they don't need to sign a veteran like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who plays 2 snaps and then snaps his body in half. That's not what they need. They need a veteran. They need a new quarterback that they can build from, that they can build a team around, so that the NFC East doesn't actually suck, because it still sucks. Anyway, thank you for this week's episode of Should They Tank? Now, let's moving on to the other segment. Contenders or Pretenders? So again, I picked 4 teams, and the contenders are the ones that I see going to the playoffs. The pretenders are the ones that are going to crash and burn. The Packers, no contenders. They are contenders. As long as they've got Aaron Rodgers, they are contenders. Yeah. Sorry. I just thought about the Packers not making the playoffs, and it made me giggle. Made me giggle just a little bit. The Chicago Bears, they're pretenders. They're going to crash and burn. I don't see 2 teams from the NFC North making the playoffs. I see maybe 3 from the NFC West making the playoffs. We've got the Titans, the Tennessee Titans. They're contenders because who else is in the division that's gonna take off? The Texans? No. The Colts, who lost a 19-point deficit, and definitely not the Jags. So it's literally the Titans to lose. And the Titans aren't actually that good. Like, spoiler alert, the Titans aren't that good. And yet they are going to make the playoffs because they're the only competent team in the AFC South. Like, that's a fact. And then we've got the Browns. I think they are going to not A, just make the playoffs, but B, make the Super Bowl. That's my prediction. That is my prediction. They're going to make the Super Bowl. I said it at the beginning of the year, and I'm still going with it until the wheels fall off, which the wheels could fall off at any moment because they're the Browns. So anyway, let's get on to the fun stuff, the news for the week. Now, I think we're going to start off with the big story of the week. John Gruden has resigned from the Las Vegas Raiders due to comments made in leaked emails. And he hit the big 3 of things that you don't say. You don't say racist stuff, you don't say homophobic stuff, and you don't say sexist stuff. He hit all 3 of them. All 3 of them. In one foul swoop. It's like, whew. They went from being the top of the AFC West to now losing their head coach. They crashed and burned so fast. It was so funny to watch that. But John Gruden, shame. You had such a cushy job. 10 years, $100 million. How would you stuff that up? Like, wouldn't you go back to your past and see if everything was squared away? Like, wouldn't you do that? I want to know your thoughts and feelings about the whole John Gruden situation, because I am disgusted by it. I am actually disgusted by the entirety of the Washington football team. Like, I don't say this word lightly because I genuinely don't like to feel this way, but I hate Dan Snyder. Hate him. And you know what's funny? He's one of the youngest owners in the National Football League. And he is always seeming to be in trouble. Is it because the older owners know how to hide their business? Maybe. Or maybe he's just a POS. But John Gruden is fired. Well, resigned. I think that it was forced out. And yeah, that is a sad situation because Derek Carr is a hell of a quarterback. He's a hell of a quarterback. And just to see him stuck in Las Vegas is just, it's sad. On a much better statistical note, Week 5 was the longest Sunday of NFL football in 50 years. There were so many overtime games, so many just... It was great. It was great. It was great just to see the constantality of the NFL on Sunday or Monday in my time. It also helped that the Jets Falcons game was on in London, which was on at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time in America on Sunday, and so yeah, of course it was going to be a long Sunday. So yeah, that's just a fun fact that I thought I would just put out to you, just a little fun tidbit of news. Trey Lance, the quarterback for the 76ers, the 49ers, has a left knee sprain, so more pain for 49ers fans who cannot seem to get it right. The 49ers cannot seem to get it right. Actually funny they think that they've got a good quarterback, but they end up not having it. Anyway, Joe Burrow, quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. My actual favorite quarterback is Joe Burrow. That's my favorite young quarterback. Is out of hospital after being evaluated for a throat contusion. Your throat is very important. It allows you to breathe. So I'm glad that he's feeling better, and I'm glad that he's out of hospital. Steelers wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster is out for the season. Another blow for the Steelers organization. And in some NBA news, Ben Simmons has decided to rejoin the 76ers team in practice. I think that his whole thing was just to come back to show his value so that he can get traded. To me, it's all about his trade value, and his trade value needs to be higher. He needs to not pull a James Harden. But yeah, I'm glad that he's back in practice. Maybe they can sort some stuff out, and maybe he might stay. You never know. The Nets have recognized that Kyrie Irving will not play at home. Of course, he's not vaccinated, so why would he be at home? He cannot play in New York without being vaccinated. To me, Kyrie is betraying the entirety of the team. How do you have a part-time player? Anyway, that's not for us to discuss. That's for the Nets to try and figure out what they're going to do. And in another happy note, because of where we are today and what we're doing, J.R. Smith, the two-time NBA champion, has made his tournament debut as a college golfer. He is clearly the personification of you can never stop reinventing yourself, and I'm so proud of him. I love J.R. Smith. He has the funniest memes. So yeah, I'm really happy for him. So let's get to NFL Week 6 predictions and previews. So the Thursday night game, we have the Eagles versus the Bucks. I'm taking the Bucks because I believe in the Bucks, and the Bucks will just put 150 points on the board. Look at the Jags versus Dolphins. The other two teams in Florida. I'm actually going to go with the Jags because I think that it's about time that the Jags win a game. We've got the Panthers versus the Vikings. I am going with the Vikings. We have the Ravens versus the Chargers. Now, this is going to be a good game. I think I might watch this on replay on my Game Pass, which is then. I am going to go with the Chargers. We've got the Giants versus the Rams. I'm just going to go with the Rams because that's just going to be a bloodbath. I'm glad I'm going to be asleep for most of it. Then we've got the Colts versus the Texans. I am going with the Colts because I don't know what the Texans are. We've got the Washington football team versus the Chiefs. Now look, I said before that the Chiefs were dead, but they're not as dead as to lose to the Washington football team. We've got the Bears versus the Packers. I'm going with the Packers. We got the Lions versus Bengals. I am going with the Bengals. We got the Browns versus the Cardinals. This is going to be a good game. I'm going with the Cardinals, the 5-0 team. We got the Pats versus the Cowboys. You know, it's going to hurt me, but I'm picking the Cowboys. We have the Broncos versus the Raiders. I'm going with the Broncos. After this week, I don't know what the Raiders are going to be. They've got an interim head coach, whose name escapes me right now. But yeah, after this week, I think that it's the best bet to pick the Broncos. Then we've got the Steelers versus Seahawks. I'm still going with the Seahawks, even though they're playing their backup, Geno Smith. Yeah. Then we've got the Titans versus Bills. I'm going with the Bills. So yeah, that is all for this week's episode of Let's Talk Sports Podcast with me, Lucia. So I'll catch you all next week. Bye.